Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at a new leak list that has just come out for the next major update. Now this leak list actually holds a lot of commonality with one of the older leak lists, which did make the most sense, and also the devlogs today have kind of confirmed at least some of the vehicles from that leak list, which is really cool. The common vehicles between the two leak lists are the XM800T, the Leopard 2A4M Canadian, which actually is listed as a German premium on the new setup, the T80UE1, which is also listed as a premium for Russia, the MiG-21 UPG for the British, or, well, India in the British tree, then also the Churchill Avery, which is an event vehicle, the Sea Harrier FA Mark II for Britain, the Desert Warrior for Britain, the ZSL-92 for China, the Antelope, which is the TC-1L, it's that little kind of truck with the missiles on it for China, the AMX A1A, which is the Brazilian AMX, this is actually listed as an Italian premium, so you'll be able to see it in that tech tree, the French Vextra TML-105, the SDRV-101R for Sweden, the USH or the USH-204 GK, and also the Neymar RCWS-30. So those are the ones which were on the old leak list and on the new one. All of those I've already covered in a previous video, so we'll leave them over there. Let's get into the new additions that we can find in this list. The first vehicle in the list is the F-15C. Now, the F-15C here is for America, and it would make sense since, America has probably the weakest F-15 right now in the form of the F-15A, and the C is basically an improved version of the standard F-15. There was nearly 500 of them built. It'll probably be the vehicle they add for America, which will carry the AMRAAM, and also they could technically give it a better radar system if they felt like it, giving it enhanced capabilities. The F4F ICE also makes the list for Germany. I feel like I've talked about this vehicle about 50 million times. It's basically a 1990s project from Germany to improve their pre-existing F4s that they have in their arsenal before, stuff like the more modern vehicles were ready for the Luftwaffe. The ICE stands for Improved Combat Efficiency. It gives the F4 access to a bunch more weapons and also access to a better radar and also general better avionics. The radar it had access to in the third stage of the ICE program was the the Hughes DASA AN/APG-65Y multi-mode radar. This would make it one of the best, if not the best, Phantoms in the game, and also give it access to the AIM-120. We also have the Kondor 2 for Germany, which is another one of these German Democratic Republic kind of minesweeper or coastal machines. We actually have a few of them in the game already, which are really cool. This was built in the late 60s and basically used the 60s onwards. The Kondor are still in service, which is kind of cool. It's also a minesweeper, which has been, farmed out to a bunch of other places, such as Latvia, Indonesia, and even Uruguay has some, so maybe we could get some cool camos. The vehicle itself has access to 3 25mm flak 2M3s, and also can carry mines and depth charges, of course being one of these minesweeper vehicles. The interesting thing about the vehicle as well is it does have two versions. You obviously have the Kondor 1, which is the Project 89.1, and then you have the Kondor 2, which is the Project 89.2. So this could also add in a few other variants of this vehicle as it comes in with different weapon systems or different internals. Then for Russia, we have the Su-27SM, or Serial Modernization 1. Basically, this is a midlife upgrade of the Su-27, specifically the S and the P variants, as well as the SK variants. The major improvement that they gave to this machine was improving its weapons control system and also giving it access to a pretty cool radar. Instead of the N001 radar, you had the N001V, which was a better system and uses the SUV-27ESH Cage. This meant that it would have access to the R-77 missile and also the KH-31A and P anti-ship and anti-radiation missiles. It also had access to ground mapping, so basically you could use the radar to see what was on the ground, and they improved the cockpit too. The major thing that this would give the Su-27 in-game is, of course, access to the active radar homing missile, the R-77. Alongside the Su-27SM, we also have the J-11A. This is an improved version of the J-11. The J-11 we have in War Thunder is the license-produced Su-27UBK, which was from, of course, some Russian stuff. The J-11A is more designed around the idea of adding in more domestic stuff to the vehicle. So instead of having to rely on the Russians for the designs and also, you know, general shape of the J-11, the J-11A was just to make it more Chinese and also give it access to some better stuff. Basically, it had improved avionics and also cockpit displays. What this will probably mean in game is that it will have access to the PL-12 missile, which is the active radar homing one for China. In the last leak list, we saw that the Benelux stuff was going to be coming to France, and it seems like this also leak list confirms that. First of all, you have the Fokker G.1. This was a Dutch twin-engine heavy fighter, one of the ones that everybody points to when it comes to how cool Holland or Netherlands or the Dutch would be in the game. And I agree, the G1 is really cool. It's very similar to some other vehicles that are around the place, but it actually flew before the Second World War started. There was a bunch of different variants of it. The G1 specifically is the prototype version, which had the Hispano-Suiza engines, and also it had two 7.92mm machine guns, and also two 23mm Madsen automatic cannons too. One of the cool things about this vehicle is it has a turret on the back, which actually has a really cool like rotation. It can go like 360 degrees, and also it can carry bombs as well. This isn't just a vehicle that will only be good for air superiority. The only thing that might kind of let it down is the engines themselves. Luckily, in later variants of the Fokker G1, it did have improved engines, such as using the Bristol Mercury 8s on the Mercury variant. There's also the NF5A, which we actually talked about last time, so I apologize for missing that out. That's the F5 from Dutchieland. Looks like this might be a premium for France, which would be kind of weird, but the other vehicles to look at is two extra F-16s. So this would be a Belgium F-16 and also a Dutch F-16 for France. So I know it's getting a little bit confusing, but hopefully it makes sense. The F-16 was exported to a lot of different countries, and the specific variant that the Belgium and the Dutch at least have in this leak list is the A version, which, you know, is only half the story, because of course you have the block as well. But also, especially the Dutch, and I'm sure the Belgium as well, actually use the B, which is of course the two-seater version of the A. The Dutch ordered the Block 1, 5, and 10 of the A, and also 15. So those are the ones to have a look at. They also did 15 OCU, which I'm not entirely sure what that is, but that was for the A and also B too. This means that they have access to a bunch of different weapon systems, including the AIM-9 NL and Ms, and of course the good old AGM-65Gs as well. Ton of ground ordnance and a ton of air ordnance. They'll have a wonderful time. For Belgium, in the French tech tree, we also have a Mirage, the 5BA. Now, this one is very similar to the standard Mirage 5 that you see from the French. The major difference between them is the ordnance that they could carry. Basically, Belgium used a lot of American stuff as well, such as the F-104s, so therefore, for Belgium, they actually have access to AIM-9s. So the Mirage 5BA would have access to the AIM-9B, then the J, the P, and then the N model, which is quite nice, but it would also get access to a bunch of different bombs, including 250 kilo ones, 400 kilo ones, the Mark 82 Snake Eyes, the BL-755 cluster bombs, and also some rocket pods as well. So it would be incredibly similar to the Mirage 5F, and unfortunately that means probably no countermeasures, unfortunately, unless they add the Report 2 system to it, which would of course give it access to them. And then you have a pretty ugly Leopard, the Leopard 1 Cockerill 3-105. Imagine taking a Leopard 1A5, removing the turret, and then adding a new Cockerill 105 basic turret to it. This has access to a 105mm gun. The major difference between this and the standard Leopard is it's mounted slightly higher, but also it has an auto-loader system. So that means there is only 2 people in the turret instead of 3. The vehicle could actually accommodate 12 or 16 rounds to it. Of course, the gun is stabilized along with all of the sights, and you could technically add in general guns as well, such as the 12-7 or the 7.62. The Leopard 1A5 chassis wasn't changed at all. The only major difference is the turret, and the turret itself looks so wonky. I'm very much looking forward to it. The other thing as well is there are 2 Dutch Leopards that would be in the French tree, the Leopard 2A4 NL and the Leopard 2A6 NL. I'm sure there's not too many differences between them, but who knows, maybe there's a few. For France, we also have the first ever coastal boat, and that is just wonderful to see. The VLT-2. This is a post-World War II torpedo boat that the French built. Basically, they got a bunch of hulls in the war during the occupation and ended up just testing them, trying stuff out, and then designed a few new MTB types, basically around the VLT idea, or Vedette Lance Torpille. Both of them were equipped with the Yak 1100 horsepower engines and were pretty mobile in 1947. They decided to try a bunch of different stuff, including some German Umo 211 engines, which is just hilarious. The big old aircraft engines in the thing, which would be quite fun. Basically, these were tested, built, and successful, and then dismantled in the 50s. So they had 2 40mm Bofors, 2 20mm Oerlikons, and also 2 550mm torpedoes. So overall, quite nice to see, but unfortunately didn't really do anything with it. And then the last new vehicle is the F-15J MSIP. This would be a Japanese F-15. The MSIP stands for Multi-Stage Improvement Program, and this began in 1987. The basic idea was to improve the up-rated central computer, the engines, the armament control set, and added the JPQ-1 countermeasures set. So if you want to check more about that out, there's a Wikipedia article about the F-15J variants, but basically it's just like a lot of kind of midlife upgrades. They tried to improve everything. So we'll see how that kind of correlates into the game itself. So that is the league list. A lot of cool stuff and a lot of things to sink teeth into. As always, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Gixie, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.